Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Jivian Astha from Food and Biotech Department. Today, we are going to study the topic enteral and parenteral nutrition. So, here is our PPT, that is enteral and parenteral nutritional support. So, in this topic, first of all, we would discuss what enteral and parenteral nutrition is, when it is needed, and what are the things that have to be considered while we are considering enteral and parenteral nutrition. See, whenever a patient is too sick to consume a normal diet, that is, the patient is in a condition that he or she cannot consume or take the food orally. In that cases, the patient have to be given nutritional support, that is nutrition via some sort of support, so that all the nutritional requirements can be fulfilled. In those cases, we opt for different methods for providing them with the nutritional requirements. And out of those methods, two known methods are enteral nutrition and parenteral nutrition. So what enteral nutrition is? It is a tube feeding, that is the meal, because the patient is not able to take the food orally, that is the patient won't be able to take food via mouth, so the food would be provided to him or her through tubes. So the tube feeding, that is directly connected or entered into the stomach or the small intestine of the patient, is termed as enteral nutrition. And if in the case the patient is not if in some cases, if we are not even able to provide or insert the tubes into the GI tract of the patient, in those cases, we opt for parenteral nutrition. That is when the nutrition is provided intravenously, that is through veins, the arteries, and the vein system, circulatory system of our body. When the nutrition is provided through the veins or intravenously, then this type of the support is known as parenteral nutrition. So, in the entire lecture, we would be dealing with these two terms. Make sure that you understand things clearly. When we would be learning why, when, and how these methods of nutritional supports are possible and preferred. So, going on to the nutritional system. See, whenever a patient is admitted into the hospital, one thing that would be firstly considered is whether the patient is in good nutritional status or not. There would be two conditions. Yes, the patient is in good nutritional condition, and the second condition would be no, the person is not in good nutritional condition. So, if the patient is in good nutritional status, and he is even able to take the food orally, then oral diet is given to the patient, and simple methods of hydration and different things are considered. But if the patient is not in a good nutritional status, and he or she requires additional considerations and supports, then a nutritional support system is selected based on the appropriate findings and assessments. So whenever we are dealing with a patient whose nutritional support, who needs a nutritional support, first of all, what we would be considering is the patient able to take food orally or not? If yes, the patient is able to take food orally, usko, like the patient would be given food via mouth. But if the patient is not able to take the food orally, the second thing that we would be consider is whether his or her functional GI tract, that is digestive system, is functional or not. Gastrointestinal tract is functional or not. In that case also there would be two conditions, that is first, yes, his GI tract is functional, and the second condition would be no, his GI tract is not functional. So if we are finding that, let's go with the first case first, that yes, his or her GI tract is functional. In that case, uh, the patient would be able to like physically eat food or not. If he is physically able to eat food, we would be giving him food via mouth. But if he is not able to take physically food, like he won't be able to chew it or swallow it. In that case, the enteral nutrition is suggested. That is, we would be inserting tubes uh, through his nose to the stomach, that is nasogastric feeding. And that type of feeding is known as enteral nutrition. The feeding would be given to a person through tubes or via tubes only in one condition: if his GI tract is functional and he is not able to take his or her meal physically or by mouth. In that case only the enteral nutrition would be preferred. The second thing is if his or her GI tract is not functional. In that case, because he cannot digest or she cannot digest food because of her in functioning of GI tract, in those conditions only we would opt for parenteral nutrition, that is through veins. We will be providing the nutrition via veins. Parenteral nutrition by peripheral veins and parenteral nutrition by central veins. These are the two methods of providing nutrition through vein. If it is for short term, then peripheral vein system would be used. And if the nutrition support have to be given for a longer period of time, that is for 2 weeks or 3 weeks, in that case, you would be opting for central venous system. I hope you this would be clear. Next, we would be dealing with each method of nutrition in detail. The first is enteral nutrition. See, I guess it would be clear to you these nutritional support systems are only provided in cases when the patient is not in the condition of taking meals or digesting them. If, like for an example, if there is a patient who has undergone a serious accident or a burn, serious burn, and his or her condition is not good and he is critically ill, he is not even able to like sit up, he is just bedridden. In that cases he won't be able to take the food, normal food that we consume. So, and eating meals and providing energy is necessary for any person to survive. So in those cases only these nutritional support systems are used. Enteral nutrition, as I told you, is a method in which you would be inserting tubes for the nutritional support, and these tubes would be inserted through nose. Their site would either be in the stomach or in the small intestine. So it is an oral supplementation only given to the patient who have a poor appetite or who are not able to take the food orally. Adequate nutrition by this means avoid stress, complications, expenses of tube feeding. Now, what are the conditions for tube feeding? These would be the criteria when the tube feedings would be provided. The first of them is with severe swelling disorder. If a person cannot swallow food, his or her GI tract is not functioning, there is some type of obstruction or fistulas, that is some type of obstruction is there, किसी तरह का रुकावट है उसके GI tract के अंदर. In those cases, the tube feeding would be provided so that we can bypass those obstructions and the meals or the feeds can be provided to the patients. Certain types of intestinal surgeries are there. In those cases, enteral nutrition can be given. Little or no appetite for the extended periods of time. If the patient is not willing to take any food due to some reasons, in those cases also enteral nutrition can be opted. The other requirements can be extremely high nutrient requirements. The patient needs high nutritional requirements and that are not being able to be fulfilled because the patient is not eating food. Mechanical ventilation. Some confusion, neurological disorders or coma can be a condition in which enteral nutrition can be opted. These are these things when the enteral nutrition are opted. Then what are the conditions in which tube feeding is contraindicated? That is, it is not opted or not recommended. So these are the factors when the patient have some types of reflexes, serious vomiting issues, or the patient have some types of GI tract is impaired, or there is a risk of aspiration. So these are the conditions in which the patients are not recommended to have tube feeding. These are the like factors on which the feeding routes would be decided. Now look at the image carefully. These are the places or the tube feeding routes. See, the tube here is inserted through the nose, that is naso. Naso means through the nose. If the other end is opening at the stomach, then the route is known as nasogastric placement. Naso means nose and gastric means stomach. So the one end is uh, open at the nose and the other end is open at the stomach. So this one is nasogastric route of enteral nutrition. The other route is if the one end is open at nose and the other is open as duodenal, that is the part of small intestine. The second one, the second route is known as nasoduodenal placement. The third placement is known as nasojejunal placement. That is the second end would be opened at the jejunal portion of the small intestine. But there might be even conditions when it is not appropriate to insert the tube via nasal passage. There might be some type of obstructions at the nasal passage, or the esophageal tube, or the food pipe is not be, or the windpipe is not in good condition for the placement of tubes, or there might be some types of fractures or problems at the oral path or the mouth part. In those conditions, enterostomies are done. That is, the tubes or the openings are made directly at the stomach or the intestine. Those methods are known as gastrostomy and jejunostomy. Then the food is directly fed into the stomach. Then opening is made in the portion of stomach, and the route is known as and the method is known as gastrostomy. And if the opening is made in the jejunal portion of the small intestine, then the method is known as jejunostomy. So these are the tube feeding routes, or the different types of routes for enteral nutrition. The gastrointestinal access or the tube feeding should always be less than 4 weeks. It should be considered that it should not exceed a time period of 4 weeks. Feeding tubes placement, as I've told you, if it is nasogastric, the opening would be in stomach. If it's nasoduodenal or nasojejunal, the opening would be in small intestine. These are the selecting feeding route. These are always preferred, as I've told you, when the aspiration risk is minimal or there is no aspiration, because if there would be aspiration, then these feedings are not practically possible. See, now what are the different types of formulas that are provided through enteral nutrition? See, whenever we are talking about enteral nutrition, we are placing some tubes. So it is damn sure that the normal food that we are eating, that food won't would not be given to the patients, because those foods cannot be passed through the tubes. So there are some different types of formulas or special types of formulas that are made for these patients. One of them is standard formula. This standard formula is very similar to the general or the food that we are eating. It is patients can digest and absorb nutrients without difficulty, and it would be given to those patients only, those who do not have much damage in their GI tract. Elemental formula is when the whole food that we are eating is broken down into small elements. That formula would be known as elemental formulas. The patient who have some compromises in their digestive tract, or their absorptioning function is not happening properly, or they have some complications, this formula would be given to those patients, because it has been broken into smaller elements. Specialized formula, as the name is suggesting, are the formulas or the food that are made for some special conditions. So these particular formulas are used to meet the specific nutrient needs of the patient with particular illness, like a special formula for a kidney patient, a special formula for a diabetic patient. So these are meant to meet the specific nutritional requirements of the patients. Modular formulas are required with the patients with specific nutrient combinations to treat the illness. Like they would be needing high protein or they would be needing high sodium. So these formulas are modulated or changed as per the combinations that are needed by the patients. This is a general composition of enteral nutrition. A general one, not a modular or the specific one, a general nutrition. Like a general enteral formula would contain protein that would be 12% to 20% of the total calories. Carbohydrate would be 30% to 60% of the total calories, and fat would be 15% to the 30% of the total calories. This is the density of the liquid or the fluid through in which the formula is made. Fiber content would be minimal or without the fiber or the minimal content. This is the osmolarity of the formula that is taken into the consideration. So this is all for the enteral nutrition. Next, in the next lecture, we would be discussing about the parenteral nutrition in detail. Thank you.